All right, so guess where I am? I'm at Gulf's Landing, and guess who I'm with? I'm with Jim Gale, okay? And guess what he's doing? Well, we already know that he wants to change the world, but actually, I'm not going to let him because I'm going to get there before he does.
Yoo-hoo! Together we win! Together we win!
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm really kidding. Okay, so he wants to talk about something. This is where I shut up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, my friends, Tesla, one of my favorite concepts or quotes of his is, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Now, there's something a little bit off on that quote, actually. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, feel or experience the now, because that's where all the energy, frequency, and vibration is. It's right now in this present moment. So, with that said, I've been learning a lot about energy devices and things that condition the frequency, the ether around us. And I want to tell a quick story, and then I'm going to bring on Dan from Essential Energy, who's standing right here. Yes.
Come on in, guys. You guys come
yes,
on.
Come
you
on
guys
in.
talk and
All right. All right. So, I was at a conference speaking with Aaron Murakami in Spokane, Washington, right? And Dan lives there, and he'd already shown me and introduced me to this technology. So when we actually went out to dinner that night after the conference, and he said, Jim, we had a bottle of wine, and he said, Jim, have a sip of your wine and tell me how it tastes. And so I go, okay, I had a sip of wine. I'm not really a wine connoisseur, but I could tell that there's a little bit of bitterness to it. It wasn't perfect. It was okay. And he goes, okay, now set it on this platform. And I set it on the platform. And my friends, I completely get the placebo, right? The placebo is real. And sometimes we're looking for reasons to believe something is true because we want it to be true, right? I'm aware of that. And I'm also kind of a skeptic. I don't want to, but anyway, here's what happened. The wine tasted different. Now, here's the fun part. I always like confirmation. I'm like, what is going on here? Because I don't know how it works, but something happened, and my experience was real. So then General Blaine Holt came in. He was about 20 minutes late to the dinner, and he comes in, and I was so excited to check him out with this. I said, Blaino, have a sip of your wine. And he's more of a wine connoisseur, so he did the whole fancy thing and smelled it, and he had a sip, and he goes, okay, yep. He sets it down on this plate, and as soon as he puts it up to his mouth to drink a sip, he smelled it, and he goes, it's different. Then he had a sip, and he's like, it blew his mind. And by the way, I just did the same thing with my coffee. There's something that happens here. Dan, right. What's going on?
Hey, thanks, Jim. It's great to be with you here. So these plates are addressing a fundamental issue with nature that we're all dealing with today. Yeah. Dr. John Ott, he said we suffer from mal-illumination. This was back in the 70s and 80s when you're dealing with just indoor UV lights. They said 75% of people worked outside in 1900. Yeah. Today it's less than 10%. We're not getting the sunlight we used to get. Yeah. But it goes farther than that now, because the sunlight that we do receive, like we're getting sunlight right now, is actually altered because of all the electromagnetic radiation that it passes through.
That makes sense.
Right? Yeah. And so what we're able to do is actually correct that. Wow. We're able to restore it back to the natural photonic resonance that sunlight's supposed to have.
That feels right to me. Yeah. We know that EMFs are everywhere. This is measurable.
Right, and so when we're dealing with this, while it is EMF protection and it is mitigating the stress from it, it's actually tuning your biology. It's tuning you at a higher resonance, so you're at another octave photonically, the photonic resonant harmonics. And by doing that, we actually can change not just ourselves. We can treat food, energize the food, what you tasted in the wine, your coffee, water, is it structured, it's energized, there's more oxygen. Because electromagnetic radiation, man-made, actually disrupts oxygen. Yep. Makes oxygen not behave like oxygen should. It either spins it up in energy or down in energy. And when it does, it's not available for that biochemistry to make CO2 or to bond with our blood. Now we have lower blood oxygen saturation, or in our wine we have less oxygen, right? And so when we get lower blood oxygen in our body, it opens the door for dis-ease. Dis-ease. Remember, that's an interesting word.
Yeah.
Dis-ease, which is the opposite of balance, which is the opposite of homeostasis, which is what nature wants to always be in balance. And so when we restore the oxygen to its rightful place, or hydrogen, any molecule,
Coherence, structure, right?
That's right. Now things work in balance,
Yeah.
and it's all through light.
Yeah.
So we reverse the malillumination that John Ott talked about at a whole nother level that we need in our modern age.
Yeah.
And so that's when you start to see the difference.
Yeah.
So and we Essential Energy, we have these as pendants,
Yeah.
little single 1-inch square plates.
Yeah.
They can go up to these light towers, we call them, right? They're stacks of plates, but they create a beam of light that is very directional. Now I can actually correct, I can structure and energize the food, but I can actually correct and make the phones more coherent.
We did this, and you shared a video. We were at my unit here. I have a little office. It's a little shipping container. He took his measuring device. It was an EMF measuring device, right?
Yep.
He took it in, and we put it in the unit. It was like 1-point-something million.
Yeah, gigs, right.
Gigs.
Yeah,
I mean,
even 3.1 gigs, because it was that Wi-Fi router.
Yes, when it got close, it was 3.1 million gigs of EMFs.
Yeah.
And now, you can feel this stuff. And then, what happened?
So then what we do is then we take and we remove that EMF meter and we structure it. So say that this is the router or your cell phone. What we do is I call painting. So we just take the light tower and we just paint back and forth. The coherent light from this is interacting now with the molecular structure here, or at the quantum level even,
Frequency
right? The
level.
resonance, the
Yes.
frequency level,
Yes.
the vibration. Einstein said it, everything is vibration. So we're now restructuring that, creating coherence. And when energy wants to be at a balanced state, we're entraining it. We're saying, hey, there's a better state embedded into these plates that reflects off, comes into now the router and things like that, and it corrects it. So when it's corrected, it's like it's smooth. And we saw the EMF meter reduce dramatically.
And by the way, this is on film. We filmed the whole thing. And we walked in, we did all this, we checked, and then it went down like by what, 80%?
At least, 70, 80%.
70-80%. And I'm like, my mind is blown because I don't get how this stuff works, but there's something happening here that's absolutely divine.
Right. And so now that that's happening, you have less of a stress load, less electrodensity that you're dealing with, and your body has to deal with that. It's not a natural form of light, and that when your body it perceives that alternating current or that EMF, it's having to address it. That's called stress, and that leads to a lot of the issues that we see. The NIH has a list of over 60 symptoms or diseases or chronic issues that are associated as being made worse by this man-made electromagnetic radiation.
Right. So they recognize it at those levels.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
We get asked all the time, well, how do you know this is working? Well, we see those issues to resolve. We see that go away, lessen, right? And so the applications are just tremendous. I travel with this all the time. I take it through the airport. I treat it just like a laptop. I put it out there. I don't get questioned because there's stainless steel plates that are just optimized to create this coherence. But I won't travel without it.
Oh, it's so cool.
And now that you get that illumination, that light in you, now things are going to absorb better. Your minerals, your nutrients. So a lot of us are trying to eat healthier today. Right? We're trying to look for that organic, non-GMO food, or we're trying to get to know our farmer, or here we're trying to grow a food forest. High quality, high nutrition.
And by the way, just go ahead. Finish that thought.
Well, we could do all that, but if we're still struggling with the stress from EMF, we're not absorbing as many nutrients and minerals as we could be. This levels the playing field, brings us back to our natural state. To now, boom, our cells are just opening up. They're becoming more hydrated. They're absorbing. Things are working better.
That makes complete sense based on our experience here. And if you haven't been here at Galt's Landing here in St. Cloud, Florida, please come and visit. It's galtslanding.farm. We have a food forest that is about 20 months in the ground. And I can't wait to show you, Dr. Wolf. Just since you were here last, it is exploding to life. And it was built on a bed of sand. right? Which a lot of people in Florida say you can't grow on this stuff. It is exploding to life. We use the Analemma system. We use this system. And then Chris is here. And Chris is also going to share something else that is really mind-blowing to me that has to do with the frequency and vibration of the ether.
And they all end up working together.
Yeah.
It's very cohesive, collaborative, because as we create a foundation of reduced EMF stress and coherent structured light, all these other modalities now become even more functional. They're great on their own, and it just accelerates it, optimizes it.
Boom. My friends, there's some neat stuff going on. We are becoming aware of technology, and a lot of this stuff is ancient technology, and now we're kind of wiring. We're learning more about it.
Right, and now those of us who've kind of been individual for a while are starting to come together, and it's going to work well. If they start to work well with other methods.
Right.
So
exactly. So okay. So now Chris is coming. Chris, get over here right away. And we're on a live stream, brother.
Yeah.
You can hand me that, and I'll take that and talk about that, because my experience with this next piece is also equally mind blowing. So, all right,
Chris, get in.
Dan, this is awesome,
Yeah,
man.
thank
Thank you
you.
for what
Yeah.
you do. So, Chris, okay, so now I'll share another brief story, and then Chris can take over, because he knows way more about this stuff, just like Dan does with the EMF conditioners. So, Chris, I engaged Chris to put a device like this here at Gulf's Landing. We literally set it up, and we plugged it in. And again, now this is all on film. I actually put this out there, and that guy, Matt Roski is his name? What's his name? Yeah, with Elevate Cultivate.
Cultivate, elevate.
Cultivate, elevate. He saw it, and anyway, it went all over the internet. But what happened is we put this system up, we plugged it in with a 9-volt battery, and I looked up in the sky, and it was just divinely perfect how it was all laying out. There was a plane coming right over the middle of our property, and it had this huge chemtrail behind it. Right? And so I got my phone, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And frankly, folks, I didn't think anything was going to happen. I need to see things. I need to experience things with my own senses for me to really understand what's going on to some degree. So anyway, I got my phone out, and right at about, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 degrees to the south, as soon as we plugged this in, the chemtrail dispersed by more than 50%, probably like 60, 70% on camera. And then I filmed the whole thing as it went overhead, and it got about 30, 40 degrees this way, and it came back to its full toxic cloud of nastiness, right? So was it a coincidence that exactly at the right time the thing dispersed? I don't think so, my friends. I mean, I'm a math guy. You do the numbers on that. Newtonian physics cannot describe what's going on. So Chris, I just rambled on for a bit. What's going on here?
So essentially what
Speak
this
loud,
is...
guys. The wind's interfering.
Okay.
So what's essentially happening is that this device is creating a torus field, which if anyone keeps up with like just kind of quantum physics, everything has a torus field, from us to the Earth to kind of everything. And it's a central building block. So Slim Sperling, the man who discovered this tech, he had, at first was a ring, but that was only a center, like a column of light. And he thought, how can I expand this so it's kind of multi-directional?
Yeah.
And that's when he basically just took the laws of nature and put it into this configuration. And what this coil is doing is pulling in negative energy through the bottom and pushing out life force through the top. So it's like a torus field of cleansing.
Yeah.
And what we did in our era now, where we took it a step further, is we added this aux cord, and we wrapped a copper wire in a Mobius coil around a quartz crystal.
Yeah.
So now you can actually plug this into your computer or phone and play frequencies that this will broadcast out, which will actually help disperse harp clouds.
Yeah.
Oh.
Keep going. Keep going. This is amazing.
So if everybody kind of like knows like a really chemtrail days, you see like how the clouds will look like waves.
Yeah.
So HARP actually runs off sine wave technology. So what you're supposed to do or want to do is you want to use square waves or sawtooth waves to help break it up more.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's where that battery, it's a little computer that's running 15 hertz square wave. and that one is just the Schumann's resonance.
Wow. So the first thing that comes to mind is Tesla on this stuff.
Yeah.
Does he have anything to do with this, or is it completely a separate knowledge base?
He has something to do with it, but this was pretty much the ancient pyramids.
The ancient pyramids?
Yeah, the only reason this works
Cubits.
cubits.
Okay.
These are all cut to certain cubits that can be found around the pyramids, and when you conjoin them, they found that it created a tensor field, and with that field, it can structure water basically at the speed of light.
Yeah.
And I know the way we test it is if you get a tensor ring and you put it around this glass and you freeze it, it'll actually create a bubble inside of the glass, and the water will never stand still as long as the tensor ring's around. So it's just structuring it so fast that we can't even see it unless you freeze it.
Yeah.
And I know there's been lab tests done where it's raised the pH, made water weigh less, and a bunch of effects. And I actually have pictures of when they took pictures of the water molecules under a microscope. You can actually see the snowflake pattern.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and it's in a hexagonal shape.
There's structure to it. There's coherence to it. And then when it gets disrupted by toxins and frequencies in the environment, all of a sudden that structure falls apart and it becomes chaotic, right?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, and what this is I know Slim Sperling, he ended up passing away, but this technology's
Merging.
Yeah. And I know he actually had one of his most famous trials. He actually got the Air Force involved, and he called it the Denver Brown Cloud Experiment, where I think in the early 90s, he set up 4 of these small ones throughout the entire city of Denver in 4 corners, and by running these on with his clearing CD, he managed to clear the air pollution in a matter, I think, of 3 or 4 hours.
That's fantastic.
Just with frequencies.
And just lately, too, I'm starting to follow this stuff. This is relatively new to me, my friends. And so I don't know what I don't know, but I'm also really starting to follow the science of it, right? Where people can get results duplicatably over and over in many places in the world. And now they're starting to have these results come up even at colleges and universities. Some people who are courageous enough to say no to the current paradigm, which is destroying the world, obviously, they're saying, wait a minute, but there's something here. And they're starting to test it, and it's working, right? We also have an analemma water system that creates coherence in the water. This system has also been duplicated at a dozen colleges and universities around the world, and it creates more life, right? And that's what this is about, creating more life, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Helps just bring coherence.
Do you want to bring that in?
Fun, yeah, I'd love to.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, so I liked what you were saying, Jim, about the story about the chemtrail dispersing above your farm. And I remember when you first approached me about doing the electroculture, I tried to express to you, you would see other things rather than just the plant growth increase. You would actually see the sky clear. And if you look behind us,
and I was like, yeah, right. I'd have to see it to believe it. I've seen it.
Right. And it's just such an amazing thing that I didn't expect when I first got into this technology, but it very quickly evolved to the point where now what you see behind us in the sky is the norm. Puffy white clouds, natural airflow, natural rainfall, high ozone rainstorms, cleansing and clearing the earth.
So now, and what's your name?
My name is Aaron.
Yeah, gotcha.
Aaron, and I go by Etheric Arts.
Etheric Arts. Okay. And now, what is this contraption?
So this is one of my art pieces, and it's also a functional art piece. This is a bubble tech tree. So the base of this is an orgone generator device, and then it has this antenna as well, which acts as a receiver for electromagnetic energy. So it draws in EMFs, what Dan was talking about, those things that can harm us. And through the process of moving through this tree, that energy becomes transmuted and restructured into life-giving beneficial energy.
That's so cool. I've got one more quick story to tell that there's so many coincidences, synchronicities, cooperative incidences happening now that I know for sure my job is just to be present and flow with it, right? And that's what Dr. Wolf and I talk about all the time. Let's just flow with life. So here's what happened. I had heard about electroculture bit by bit over the last few years as a permaculturalist, right? And it didn't inspire me until one day I got articles from 2 different friends that said, Jim, there's something about this electroculture thing that's real. And I was like, well, as soon as I got those, and that's how I kind of operate, when all of a sudden the same information comes at me from different sources, and it's more than a coincidence, that's when I start taking action, right? So I heard about electroculture. Aaron had called me up and said, hey, Jim, I'd like to come see your farm. And I didn't know anything about Aaron. He shows up. We do a tour of the property, and he's looking at the food forest. We're having a good chat. And about halfway through the tour, I said, and by the way, an hour before this is when I decided that I was going to get electroculture here at Galt's Landing. So then I asked him, what do you do? And he goes, I do electroculture. And then, look at that. And then I hired him instantly because I knew this was the universe calling. And instantly, and then he and Chris, they put electroculture throughout the whole property. And I got to say, everybody that comes here, so far, we have a 100% inspired rate. Not one person has ever left here and says this place sucks.
That's for sure, and including me. I consider it such an honor to be here and to be able to share this technology with you, Jim, and with the world. Everybody who's interested in this, it's possible. You can do it. Just start researching. Start digging into this. Reach out to anyone who's interested in this. Reach out to me. Reach out to Chris. Reach out to Dan. And you will begin to see results instantly. Your skies will clear, your sleep will improve, and your water will taste better.
And thank you so much, Braveheart Nation and Dr. Daryl Wolf, one of my brothers, and he healed me in 3 different areas from a lot of pain and suffering that I didn't even know. Well, in one area it was obvious, but there's things that I didn't even know I didn't know, and he saw it somehow with his years of experience and wisdom in this, and I can breathe deeper. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so Chris, you want to hop in? Yeah, so Dan, hop in. All right, so we're all on Instagram, which is an easy way to get in touch with us. I go by Etheric Arts on Instagram, Etheric_arts, AETHERIC_arts. And Chris, you want to share what you go by?
Yeah, I go under as Telestai Creations, which is TELESTAI Creations. And that's just on Instagram, and that's the easiest way to get at me. But also, we're pretty active on Jim's Food Forest chat on Telegram. So if anybody's on there, it could be very easy to reach us through there.
Yeah. And you can get a hold of me. I have a website. It's essentialenergy.solutions. Essentialenergy.solutions. And then on Instagram, it's essential_energy_solutions. And my phone number is 833-723-3363. I'd love to talk to you anytime. Daryl, this has been amazing. Thank you. Braveheart Nation, it's great to meet you and share this with you. Like we said, this is a combination, a coming together really of these frequencies and resonance that's raising the vibration of the world, the coherence of the world.
Yeah.
You guys are welcome to come on and do a show if you want, so let me know.
Love to.
All right, we'll let
Thank
you
you.
know. Thank you, Doc.